Okay, here's the second part. The second part of chapter 1.3, right? Part 2. This is where we're going to see the problems. And actually the work's going to be so easy. Okay, so we're talking about segment bisectors, right? Sometimes it's a point, sometimes it's a line, sometimes it's an array or a segment. Okay? And pretty much the understanding here is this. If I have a segment, again, they can call it any letter. Right? AB, segment AB. And if I have a middle point, right? Then as far as math is concerned, I'll put this M, right, for midpoint. Then all you pretty much understand, if it's the exact segment bisector, then, like I said earlier, these two segments are congruent. AM would be congruent to MB. Because it's like it's a segment bisector, so it cuts it right in half. So if this is 5, if this is 5 here, then there's one of two questions they can ask you. They can ask you how much is MB, or they can ask you how much is the whole thing. So you got to be careful. Sometimes they're asking you how much is the other half. Sometimes they're asking you how much is the whole thing put together. Well, pretty much you know this, you put it equal to this. So if this one's 5, well, we know this one's going to be 5, right? So if they ask me how much is MB, well, I know it's going to be 5. And if they ask me how much is the whole thing, then obviously 5 plus 5 is 10, right? That's still that's how easy the concept is. Okay, but let's step it up. It's not going to be that easy. That's number 1. Number 2. What if I have a different segment? Again, they can call it any letter they want. S and U. And let's say I don't have a midpoint here, but they tell me that this line is a segment bisector. This is line L. If line L is the segment bisector, that means that what? It cut it right down the middle, right? Right down the middle, that means that this half right here is congruent to this half. I get that. And sometimes they'll have a point here, they'll have a letter. Let's call this R. So the equation that you should actually be setting up, or the understanding here for mathematics, is this is equal to this, or this is congruent to this. I know that SR is congruent or is equal to what? RU. And now how they're going to make it different is they're not just going to give you a simple number. They'll put expressions, something like 3x and 18. Well, again, since these are equal to each other, since this is the bisector, that means this is equal to this. So you put it equal to each other. SR is 3x is equal to what? 18. And then you can solve for x, right? And again, here, this is a way that they can trick you here, right? You gotta pay attention to what the problem is asking. They might ask you find x. That could be that. That could be one question. They might ask you to just solve for x. Okay. If I just solve for x, that'll be divide by 3, that'll be 6, right? Or they can ask you how much is the whole thing. Well, this is 18, and 3 times 6 will also be 18. 18 plus 18 is 36. Okay. And again, how are they going to just kind of make this a little bit complicated or even just to look difficult? Again, they might have the line, I don't know, it could go this way. They could have the line going this way. It doesn't matter. Let's go with point X and Y. And they tell you that this ray is the segment bisector. The ray bisects this segment, so that means it's going to cut it right through the middle. And here I'm using a ray. So let's say the ray goes, whatever, this way. If this ray bisects this one, that means these are congruent. And this would be ray like, whatever, CD, okay? But you just worry about the congruent parts. And they might put expressions here. Instead of just one number or simple something like this, they might put something like, this is 5x minus 4, and this is x plus, I don't know. Let's see, what should I put here? 20? Let's put 20. So again, as far as the math is concerned, you just put this part equal to this part because they're congruent. They're equal because this is the bisector. That means that these are equal. So XC, this XC, segment XC, is congruent or equal to what? This one over here, CY. Right? Remember, communicate your math. Always use a formula or an equation or something that's telling me why you're putting them together or why you're setting them equal to each other. That means that 5x minus 4 has to be the same thing or equal to what? This x plus 20. And the math is going to be easy because all you got to do is solve, right? All you got to do is solve this. How do you solve this? Some of you are struggling here, and this is why you're not getting things right, because this is Algebra 1. This part's Algebra 1. You should know Algebra 1 if you're in a geometry class. I'll solve it here. 5x minus 4 equals x plus 20. I'm going to, you have to move all the x's to one side, all the numbers to that side. So I'm going to move this minus 4 over there. That's going to be plus 4 plus 4. That'll be 5x equals x plus what? 24. And then right here, when you move it this way, or you got to subtract it here. So that's going to be a minus x and a minus x. So you're not going to do 5 plus x. It's going to be 5 minus 6. That's going to be 4x equals 24. And then you're going to get x equals 6. Okay. And then you come back over here. And again, they might ask you one of two things. They might ask you A, to solve for x. If they just ask you to solve for x or whatever the variable is, okay, then that would be the answer. But if they ask you how much is one of these segments, well, then you got to plug in the value of x6 here. If I put 6 here, that'll be 6 plus 20, 26. This is 26. And 5 times 6 is 30. 30 take away 4 is 26. Of course, it has to be the same number. Remember, they're congruent. They might ask you for one of the segments. Right? Let's say segment XC. They might just ask you for one of them. And then we said what the answer was 26. Or they might ask you for the whole thing. Not just half of it, not just a 26 or a 26. They might ask you for the whole thing. So you gotta see what they're asking you. I mean, eventually you should be able to do all of this, right? And if they ask you for xy, I know x is equal to 6. I'll put the answer here. I know this is going to be 26. But if they ask you for the whole thing xy, 26 plus 26, that's going to be what? 26 plus 26 is 52. Okay, So this is the way the problems are going to be on the assignment, okay? They're going to ask you like this. This is the way it's in the book, okay? It's chapter 1.3. I think it's like page 21, 22 or something like that. I'll write it down in the assignment. It's actually like a two-part question. It'll say identify the segment bisector of, not our, of RS. And then it's going to ask you like one of those two-part questions or whatever. One of the parts, it'll say something like solve for X maybe. It doesn't say solve for X all the time, but you see there's two parts here. First, the first part, identify the bisector, and two, solve for X. So here's an example problem. What if you have like this? Here's my RS. And this is you see something like this. And let me write this. Let me do this a different color here. And even though it doesn't tell you that it's the segment bisector, you'll see these little congruent signs. So that definitely makes it tells you that this line is bisecting this one because you're seeing the little congruent signs. And let me call this line T. Okay, for part one, to identify the segment bisector, which one's the segment bisector? Is this a point? Is this a line? Is this a segment? Or is this a ray? Well, this is line T. It's a line. Line T is the segment bisector. That's it. That's the first part. If it's a line, you say line. If it's a point, you say point. If it's a ray, you say ray. If it's another segment, you name out the other segment. And then you'll have something like 8x minus 12. And let me put over here something like 3x plus 38 or something. You know, they're going to have an expression or a number or something here. But again, as far as math is concerned, you know that this divided this, the bisector divided these two into equal segments. So you're going to put the 8x minus 12 equal to, right? Because now they're equal. They're equal in measure. Because it's split it right in the middle. So this is equal to this. 3x plus 38. This is for the part two when you're solving for x. And then how do you solve for x here? Well, I'm going to do plus 12 plus 12. I'm going to move all the numbers to this side. That'll give me 8x equals 3x plus 50. Moved all the numbers this way. Now all the letters got to be over here. All the variables to the other side. So now it's going to be minus 3x minus 3x. So you're going to be left with 5x equals 50. Oops, sorry. And then you're going to get the value of x. If it says solve for x, you're done, right? If it says solve for x, you're finished. But if it says something else like find this much, then you substitute it in. Or if it says find this much, you substitute it in. Or if it says to find the whole thing, well, you substitute it in and you find the whole thing. Okay, that's it.